Oh shit. Oh shit.
All of you have this inner strength, some special power that you've had in your most wonderful dreams.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors tells the story of the last remaining Elm Street children. They're all kept in this mental hospital, and they have to band together, find their inner strength, discover the powers that the dream world gives them, and take down Freddy Krueger once and for all. So despite its financial success, the lukewarm response by fans and critics alike of Freddy's Revenge Nightmare on Elm Street 2 made New Line say, we got to bring Wes Craven back. We got to get him back. We got to get his ideas, his writing in here, and we have to do the proper sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street. And damn if Dream Warriors isn't the best sequel you could possibly ask for. Wes Craven didn't stick around to direct this, but he wrote the first draft of this, and then they brought in Frank Darabont. That's right, the director of A Shawshank Redemption has his hands on A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, as well as Chuck Russell to punch up his script, come up with something a little bit different, and Chuck Russell actually stayed on to handle the directing duties of this. Wes Craven's first draft of this movie was very dark, it was very brutal, it was no holds barred, it was very profane with a lot of Freddy's dialogue, and you could tell that Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont came in and they really added those fantastical fun elements that we've come to know from the later sequels in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And that element of Nightmare on Elm Street was never done better than in Dream Warriors. The balancing of the funny Freddy and the scary Freddy was absolutely perfect in this one. And of course, most of the credit of that is going to once again go to Robert Englund and his portrayal of Freddy Krueger. A lot of the dialogue and the one-liners that we know and love from Dream Warriors was actually ad-libbed by Robert Englund himself on set. And my favorite one was and always will be, "Welcome to prime time, bitch!"
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
I love that. The stars really aligned for Robert Englund in this movie because he is still sinister, he is still scary like we knew him from the original, and even pieces of Freddy's Revenge, but all of his one-liners, all of his humor, all of his jokes and personality that he injects into Freddy and Dream Warriors nails it. There is not a single line that Freddy delivers in this movie that falls flat. It's all memorable, it all lands, and I really wish this would have carried through to the further sequels because it totally got out of hand, but Dream Warriors did it the best. And back from the original Nightmare on Elm Street is Heather Langenkamp as our favorite heroine Nancy Thompson and her father played by John Saxon, and this movie utilizes those two characters beautifully. There is not a sequel that I can think of, not even just horror sequels, just sequels in general, that pays so much love and respect to the original, brings back characters that we love from the original, utilizes them that well, and wraps up their story so beautifully. Nancy is still that badass fighter that we all fell in love with, but she has amped it up so much in Dream Warrior. She is now a protector. She finds these kids in this mental hospital that nobody will listen to, nobody will help, nobody will entertain, and she wants to protect them because she used to be them.
Never sleep again.
She used to be in those shoes. She used to be the one telling them about this evil, telling them about this man, and nobody would believe her, especially her mother and even her father to a degree. So she wants to prevent what happened to her in the original movie happening to these kids, and that is just the perfect way to grow her character from where she was at the end of the first Nightmare on Elm Street. I really like what they did with John Saxon's character as well, because you didn't get too much of him in the first movie. He was basically just there to kind of be the police force and to be somewhat of a foil for her mother, who is an alcoholic. He's more just a working man, but both of them are terrible parents because they have nothing to do with their daughter and have no idea what she's going through. They don't listen to her. But in this movie, you can see where that relationship has taken its toll on him over time. He's still estranged from his daughter. He looks like he's pretty much lost everything that he worked so hard for as far as his career. He's getting into alcoholism himself. But he gets a chance for redemption in this, and that's what I love, is that he gets to make up for all the mistakes that he made in the first movie, and even the story that we never got to see before the first movie, and he gets to help take down Freddy as well. And what a great way to bring his character back, because otherwise it would have just been a glorified cameo, but they utilize it so well that his presence is welcome. Now, as far as our new characters that we're following in Dream Warriors, all of the Elm Street children, I love the kids, or the victims if you will, in Dream Warriors more than any other installment in this franchise. Even the original. I love Nancy in the original, but everybody else, a little bit here and there. But everybody in Dream Warriors was written so well, and they have such unique and distinct personalities, and they're so likable that even though I really want to see the kills and I want to see how brutal it's going to be whenever they do meet their end, I actually care for these kids and I want them to make it through it, and I'm invested in their fight against Freddy. And that's really important in a slasher movie, because if you don't care about the victims, if you're not following the story or the characters at all, then you're just watching cannon fodder on screen. But you're really invested in their story, their fight, their struggle, their dynamic with each other, and they absolutely did perfectly whenever they casted these kids and wrote these kids. Patricia Arquette made her feature film debut in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and she plays Kristen. She's kind of the main character as far as the new Elm Street kids. The movie opens up with her, and for the most part you follow her more throughout the story than the other kids. And what I love about her character, aside from the fact that Patricia Arquette is gorgeous, is that she's a really cool complement to Nancy. And when Nancy and her meet, they have a great dynamic back and forth, because Kristen, just like Nancy, has a mother that does not believe her, that doesn't really invest in her too much, doesn't really give her a whole lot of attention or care for her.
Mom, I'm still having those awful dreams.
Elaine, where do you keep the bourbon?
I'll be right down.
Honey, I've got a guest.
And you don't want to keep him waiting.
That's right, I don't.
And I love the way that Nancy kind of steps in as like this surrogate mother and this protector for Kristen. And Kristen's a really strong character as well. She's got a great little dream power where she can bring in anybody she needs. And even though she's scared shitless of Freddy, you never get the sense that she's this helpless victim. You feel like she's the one who's going to fight against Freddy, and she's going to use every bit of strength that she has to survive this situation and possibly even take down Freddy in the end, just like you got from Nancy in the original. And it was great that they found a way to bring a character like that back without feeling like just a stock copy of a character that we already know and love. Another character that I love in this movie is Kincaid. Kincaid is the fucking man, because this guy realizes that no adult cares, no adult believes him, no adult is going to help him, and he uses it to advantage of his character and basically just says, okay, fuck all of you, I'm going to help myself, none of you are putting your hands on me. And this guy's got some of the best lines in the movie.
Psychological scars stemming from moral conflicts and overt sexuality.
Great, and that's my dick that's killing me.
Have a nice stroll, asshole.
And it's time to stop guessing and start messing. Yo, Freddy! Where you hiding at, you burnt-faced pussy? Let's go kick the motherfucker's ass all over Dreamland.
He's one of the most memorable characters in the entire franchise. I love this guy to death. And the other character I want to touch on a little bit is Joey. And Joey cracks me up because he's pretty much the epitome of all young males. His entire weakness in this film and the next film is women. Not Freddy, not the Nightmare, not Blades, nothing like that. No, just a gorgeous looking woman. And it doesn't matter what situation he's in, his attention will be diverted 110% if he sees some ass walking by. And as a matter of fact, I think that nurse scene may have been the first time I ever saw nudity in a movie. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it was. And I was probably sitting in the room as a 4 or 5 year old kid, something like this.
Do you like my body, Joey?
Now, when you start talking about a good horror sequel, or really just a good sequel in general, what are the things that you really want? You want it to pay respect to the original, you want it to take the story a little bit further, add some mythology, add some depth to the characters, even the killer or the villain. You want all these things to be expanded and to be bigger and to be grander. And A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors does all of that. In fact, one of the best things about this movie is the writing itself. Wes Craven, Frank Darabont, and Chuck Russell really outdid themselves with the script and the story ideas that they executed in Dream Warriors. Not only was setting this in a mental health hospital a good way to kind of change up the setting and change up the feel from the other two movies, and it gives it its own kind of flavor, but also the writing with the dialogue, the writing of these characters. But writing the backstory of Freddy and the introduction of Amanda Krueger is a huge integral part of the lore and the story of Freddy Krueger that started in this movie. We never saw Amanda Krueger or even heard her name before until she showed up in this. We never really got a backstory for Freddy either, aside from the fact that he was a child molester and a child murderer that met his end by the parents. But this gives you an even deeper and sicker origin for Freddy. You got Amanda Krueger, who is this nun. She worked in this mental health hospital with all these maniacs. She accidentally gets locked into this room, and 1,000 of these guys continuously brutalize her and rape her for weeks and months until she's finally rescued and they find her with child, Freddy Krueger. What a wicked ass way to write the origin for Freddy Krueger. I mean, the sick and twistedness of that entire situation is beyond me, and I love it. And the other new character that they introduced that I really like is Dr. Neil Gordon, played by Craig Wasson. Now this character is interesting because I think in the entire franchise, this is the only adult that even before he has his initial interaction with Freddy, he really wants to help these kids. That's the only person, the only adult in this whole franchise that does that. He wants what's best for his kids, even if their delusions, if you will, is so out of this world and so unbelievable, he wants to help them. He believes that they believe it, and I like that aspect of his character. He's got a great back and forth with Nancy. I love their dynamic, and I like the fact that he's one of the accomplices in the end of taking down Freddy. It's a great story arc with him, and I also like his scenes with Amanda Krueger because that whole thing, that whole revelation is one of my favorite aspects of the story, as I've already said. He's such a great character that I actually wish we would have saw him again. I wish he would have showed up in the beginning of the Dream Master just to have a little bit more connective tissue and to see that character one more time. But as you'll see very soon, unfortunately for me, that's one of the least egregious things that Dream Master did. Another thing that I really love with the way that they wrote this movie was the dream powers themselves, and the way that they really complement the kids' fears with how Freddy takes them on and how they take on Freddy himself. There's a lot of great one-on-one scenes whenever they're finally in the third act and they're each meeting Freddy one-on-one, and every time they have a certain fear or they have a certain personality trait about them that can be considered a weakness in the real world, it's amplified into a strength in the dream world. For instance, you got Kristen, who's really alone. She feels isolated. She feels like nobody's on her side. So when she's in the dream world, she can bring anybody she wants into her dream to help her and to be with her and stand alongside her. Kincaid, he feels like he's restricted, like he's not allowed to be as strong as he is. He's not allowed to really help everybody the way that he can because everybody's trying to lock him up and shut him up. So in the dream world, he turns into the fucking Hulk. And then you have Philip. He's kind of the stereotypical geek. He likes Dungeons and Dragons and all these board games, and he's got the glasses and the signature look to him. And in the dream world, he gets to be the Wizard Master. Yeah, okay, maybe that one's a little bit silly. Taryn is kind of this weak, regretful ex-drug addict. In the dream world, she gets to be this badass metal chick. And then you have Joey, and okay, his weakness in the real world is titties, and in his dream world, his power is that he can speak. So I guess he can talk about how nice the titties are, maybe. And one more element of the Freddy Krueger lore that actually started in Dream Warriors that I've always been a big fan of because I love the look of it is the souls of the children that he has killed that are kind of encased in his skin. He pulls back his shirt and you see hands and faces and everybody that he's killed.
The souls of the children give me strength.
Always room for more.
And what a wild practical effect, which is a great segue into another great pro of this movie, is that the practical effects kick ass in Dream Warriors. It's actually really underappreciated for how great the practical effects are in this movie. Of course, the souls of the children is a great effect. You've got the little Freddy worm, which is one of the most iconic scenes in this movie, especially whenever he recognizes Nancy and you get that great line of, "You."
Oh my God.
The marionette death is great, the first kill of the movie. The TV kill, the animatronics in that scene is awesome. And then you have another look for Freddy that's actually pretty badass, and that's when his fight scene with Taryn comes, and he pulls up his hands and all of his knives and all of his regular fingers turn into hypodermic needles. I love the look of that scene.
Let's get high.
And even the Wizard Master scene. I know everybody hates on that scene, and it is a little bit silly amongst all the other badass scenes that we have in the third act of this movie. The chair, the wheelchair in that scene is wicked. I love that thing. I was actually at Planet Hollywood once when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and they had a life-size replica of that chair. And man, even though it was wicked as hell, I almost wanted to sit on it and take pictures. They wouldn't let you, bastards. But that chair is iconic to me. That's one of the most iconic scenes in this movie. And I can't do a review on this movie without talking about how great the ending was written for this. Not only is it the best defeat of Freddy that's been written in this entire franchise, but it utilized Nancy and John Saxon so well, gave Nancy a chance at revenge, gave John Saxon a chance for redemption, and all of that came together so awesome. Just the way that they have to find Freddy's remains, and they have to use a cross and holy water while they're fighting him in the dream world, how all of that came together is such an awesome third act, and one of the best ways that I've seen a horror icon taken out in a movie. Oh shit. Well, one thing I have to mention, if I'm talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, of course I'm gonna have to mention Dokken! I love the shit out of that song Dream Warriors. It's one of my favorite songs of the 80s. It never leaves my iPod. It will never leave my collection. It's always going to be a favorite of mine. And I love the way that the song complements the themes of the movie so well. Dokken was actually the first band to really dive in and do something to that extent, where they write a song, they record it, they do a music video, they tie in the actors and the scenes of the movies, they do all this promotional art. Like my dad has the actual old school LP of that single, and in the back you got Freddy hanging out with all the band members. Just the entire way that they wrote that song and marketed it alongside with the movie is iconic, and it's synonymous with this movie. I can't think of the movie without thinking of the song, and especially the way the movie ends when they utilize the song. You get the ending scene, the credits roll, and then you get the first couple of notes of the song, and it gives me chills every time. Now, as I've been doing with all of these Nightmare on Elm Street reviews, I've picked my scariest or favorite scene in every single one of these movies, and my favorite scene in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is actually the opening scene, when we're first introduced to Kristen, and she falls asleep, she wakes up, and it's Nancy's original house from the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's now like this haunted house. It's like Freddy's fun house, and the way that they shot and designed that house, whenever she first gets in, and that little girl, when she talks about
Freddy's home.
The door closes, and the deeper she gets into that house, the worse shit gets. She has to trek through this long hallway filled with like this blood quicksand that holds her in place while Freddy's coming after her, and what a great silhouette he has on the wall. And then you have the scene whenever she walks into this room and you see all the Elm Street children hung on the wall.
Put me down, you're hurting me.
Just a lot of crazy ass, dark, scary imagery in that opening scene. And I love the way that they utilized the house. Now Freddy has taken that house, he has made it a part of his lore, and if you see that house, your ass is grass. And I also really appreciate the fact that they didn't bother getting into any resurrection scenes or explaining how Freddy was back, because Freddy just never went anywhere in the first place. They didn't really have to give too much backstory on Kristen. Kristen is deep in the nightmare. She is deep in her fear of Freddy as this movie starts. We don't have any 15 minutes of her starting to have nightmares and having to discover who this guy is. They just start the movie, and it works so well, and it doesn't waste any time getting you deep into what this movie is going to deliver, which is badass Freddy Krueger. So to wrap all this up, guys, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is not only one of my favorite movies of all time, it's my favorite horror sequel of all time, and it often competes with the original Nightmare on Elm Street for me on what is the best of this franchise. It is that good. It does everything that you want a sequel to do. It respects and loves the original. It builds upon what the original set up. It brings back characters from the original and pays such great tribute to them, while introducing new characters that you love just as much, if not more, than some of the original characters. Has great writing, great story, adds a lot of great lore to the franchise and to our villain Freddy Krueger, and in the end is just a damn good, iconic blast of a movie. So if you do not already own A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, what the hell are you watching this review for? Get your ass out there and buy this movie, because it should be a part of your collection. It's a part of mine, so make it a part of yours. Go out and buy it. So what do you guys think of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors? Do you like this movie as much or more than the original? What do you think about the newly introduced funny Freddy? Do you think they nailed it in this, or do you wish he would have stayed just scary? What's your favorite Freddy one-liner? What's your favorite victim, your favorite kill? Put everything that you want to talk about regarding Dream Warriors down in the comment section below, and we'll talk about it. Please like and share this video, and hit that subscribe button. That way you get to come back and see me next time. And check out the rest of my Nightmare on Elm Street review series by clicking right over here.